The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Mighty God, in giving us dominion over things of the earth, you made us fellow workers in your creation. Give us wisdom and reverence, so to use the resources of nature, that no one may suffer from our abuse of them, and that generations yet to come may continue to praise you for your bounty. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Welcome you this morning. I'm a member of the Creation Care Committee. And this is our mission statement. We formed in February of 23 and have been very active since then. We welcome anybody that's interested to join us. Our mission is to foster a greater awareness and appreciation of all of God's creation and its sacredness, so that we experience the love of God and allow love to move us to gratitude and to action on behalf of the more than human world. To create, nurture, and maintain the landscape surrounding Trinity Church, Asheville, North Carolina, with an acute sense of the genius loci, the spirit of the place, and for the betterment of the natural world, and to set an example of Trinity that inspires and enables others to reconsider their own landscapes and lives. And today we're honored to have Seth Little, who is Connie Wilson's son, and he is going to speak to us. He is the vice chair of the Blue Horizons Project Community Council, and he is going to share some information about renewable energy and conservation goals. So I give you Seth Little.
So good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming, especially on a morning where 9:30 feels a lot more like 8:30. I am grateful for the opportunity to share a subject that I'm really passionate about with you folks today. I definitely come here today with a really selfish message. I have a 9-year-old son, and though I am not native to these mountains, he is, and I passionately wish that he'll have the same opportunity that we all do to enjoy these mountains in the way that we do. I also firmly believe that the energy transition is the defining challenge of our time. And I believe that we have what it takes to rise to that challenge and meet it. And so that's kind of what I want to talk to you folks about today. I want to talk about energy. I want to talk about conserving energy and then renewable energy, and then some initiatives that are underway in Western North Carolina to help us all do that, and that I think can serve as a resource for you. And then, of course, I have an ask. But we'll kind of get to that. First up, I'm part of the community council of the Blue Horizons Project. At kind of the highest level, the Blue Horizons Project is an initiative of several stakeholder groups throughout Buncombe County that seek to match city and county goals to be on 100% renewable energy by the year 2042. And I'm consistently struck with kind of how far away and how near 2042 seems when you start talking about it. The Blue Horizons Project is kind of an outgrowth of an initiative that started about 4 or 5 years ago. Duke Energy sought to build a new, what they call a peaker power plant out at Lake Julian, right? And so as they looked out in their forecast and they saw the way the energy use was trending in Western North Carolina, they saw the need for more generation. And so they had on there what they call an integrated resources plan to build a new power plant at Lake Julian. And there were a lot of folks in kind of the environmentalist and the activist community who didn't want to see a new peaker power plant, right? So a peaker plant is a gas power plant, natural gas power plant. It is designed to be ramped up and down quickly, you know, when the need for electricity spikes, like if it's warm or overly cold, they can bring on a peaker plant quickly, and it was seen as a way to support flexible generation. But, you know, though natural gas is a much cleaner fuel than coal, you know, it's still another natural gas fuel. It's still reduced air quality for the region. So there are a lot of folks that weren't keen on a new power plant in our neck of the woods, right? So a group of stakeholders, including the city and the county, and even Duke Energy was great about participating as part of this too, developed what was called the Energy Innovation Task Force. And the Innovation Task Force was tasked with identifying ways to essentially eliminate the need. What Duke Energy said to us was, if you can find a way that the region doesn't need this power, then we don't have to build a power plant, right? So the Energy Innovation Task Force, so like Mountain True, Greenbelt Alliance, the city, the county, Duke Energy, like lots of stakeholders got together on this like kind of several month effort. And through a variety of different channels, including some programmatic developments, and then renewable energy, like identified a path to reducing the overall electricity demand in Western North Carolina such that Duke Energy actually accepted the proposals, modified its integrated resource planning, and lowered its forecast, and thusly took the build of the PP plant off their integrated resource plan. It's a huge victory for environmentalists and activists within Western North Carolina. Part of what came out of that was like, so like we came up with a plan, now we have to walk the walk, right? Like we have to actually make sure that we don't need the energy. And so the Blue Horizons Project was created. Another outgrowth of that was the city and the county's goal to reduce energy consumption and to go 100% renewable by 2042. So the city and the county are actually on track, right? Like, so this, when you think about city and county use, this is transportation, this is the city bus system, this is public buildings, this is parks, this is the pickups that Parks and Rec drives around to service, this is the water department, this is solar panel on government buildings, this sort of thing, right? So, but it's everything for the city and county. This needs to be 100% renewable by 2042. That energy usage represents just under 1% of the total energy consumed in Buncombe County. So the mission of the Blue Horizons Project is to encourage and enable homeowners, businesses, larger organizations to take a similar path, right? So we really have the much bigger job. We've got to help, 99% of the energy use in Buncombe County shift to all renewables by 2042. So my ask ultimately is I'm going to ask for your help in helping us to get there. And today I'll share some ways that you can adopt personally and maybe ways that you can help kind of more broadly with the effort overall. So I am in the middle of a career based on energy efficiency. Whenever I tell people I work in energy efficiency, the next question is always, oh, solar panels, right? And though I love renewables and I think solar is a great option, energy efficiency is actually much more about reducing energy consumption than it is about adding additional electricity or additional energy. So the neat fact about energy efficiency is that whenever you kind of remove some energy consumption from the grid, you have the same effect as if you were to add more energy onto the grid, right? So like if you take a 100-watt light bulb and replace it with a 9-watt LED, you've effectively made 91 watts available to the grid. Turns out that energy efficiency is the least expensive way to make more energy available on the grid. Kudos to Buncombe County and to Asheville with the 2042 target, right? Like when you think about the Paris Climate Accords, all of those kind of net neutral targets aim to 2050. That's also a laudable goal. When you think about any of the credible modeled paths to energy neutrality by 2050, at least half of that path has to come from energy efficiency, right? So the cheapest way, the easiest way to make those first giant steps towards 100% renewable energy is to reduce our energy consumption. The difference between efficiency and conservation is that with conservation is turning the light off, and efficiency is making more efficient lighting. So the idea of doing the same amount of work, but with less energy. So when we talk about energy efficiency, we're not asking you to make a sacrifice. We're asking you to make a decision that does the same amount of good, but with a little bit of less energy. So there are some really easy things that you can do just at your home, right? The neat thing about this is whether or not we're associated with a business or not, we're all kind of at home as well. I've got another slide on this, I think, later, but your home heating and air conditioning accounts for just under half of your energy consumption. right? So if you're thinking about, ways that you can make a big impact in your home, changes to your home heating and air conditioning are kind of the biggest bang for your buck. It can also, if you were to replace those systems, it can be the most expensive way to do it, but it is a way to make a great impact. On the inexpensive side, maintaining your HVAC systems is a great way to save energy and even to increase the comfort in your home, right? So getting those coils clean, right? Making sure that there's no outdoor debris around your outdoor condensers, this sort of thing. Making sure that your filters are consistently cleaned and replaced is a very inexpensive way and a high impact way to make sure that you're using less energy. A couple examples of the way that you can do that on the filter side. Another thing that you can do is that you can add solar, right? Now, it doesn't work for everybody. And like in the case of our home, we could add solar, but I'm never going to completely 100% displace the electricity that we use. I think that one of the things that we need to think about is that maybe that's okay, right? Like just because you can't displace all the energy doesn't mean that it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? There are not actually many homes that have exactly the right roof and exactly the right exposure to displace all of their energy use. But even, to use what you have is to make a viable contribution to the grid, both to reduce your own consumption, and then also, depending on the type of solar system that you have, you can make a contribution to the grid at peak times of usage during the day through the use of solar, even if you're not displacing all your usage. So thinking about solar. Living mindfully, like this does begin to drift into the conservation of it all, but thinking about the decisions that you make and how those decisions use energy and how you can be mindful about them. I think the mindfulness is the key for me here. It isn't even as much about which behavior you choose to adjust as knowing what your behavior does and what the possibilities to make that better might be. There are some really good tools that are available if you're thinking about solar in your home. There are some really good local folks that are doing good solar projects. We don't always want to recommend folks by name, especially in a group setting, but the one thing that I would say is that if somebody comes to your home and is talking to you about solar, those are often kind of out of the region firms. And while they often have a very nice offering, I would say if somebody comes to your home and they have a compelling argument, honor that, talk to those folks, and then maybe, look for local companies that you could also talk to and compare quotes against. But there's some really good locally owned companies that are doing really good work in the solar space. And again, adding that solar generation, that renewable component will be a huge part of getting to goals. This is one that wasn't intuitive to me. I've been working in energy efficiency for, I think, about 13 years now. We didn't start talking about electrification until probably the last 3 or 4. But when we think about, again, this is a really ambitious goal. Like when we talk about 100% renewable energy, we literally mean 100%. So that's, every 57 Chevy that's still on the road, it's every furnace, it's every boiler is where we're trying to get to. And it's really ambitious. And so we're not going to get there in one step. We do have about 18 years to get there to meet the goal. And an early step that we can take, that we can all take, is that we can begin to electrify. Right, so I do have the distinct pleasure of having my mother as a neighbor in an effort to get better quality babysitting time. We built a house for her to live next door so that she could be close and on call. But when we built her house, we built it 100% electric. There isn't even a gas line that runs to her house, right? We all know that a lot of the fuel generation from Duke Energy is still fossil fuel based. But if we as homeowners can begin to electrify, begin to make those decisions that shift from fossil fuel burning internal appliances to electric ones, even though we're still going to be burning fossil fuels at the generation source, as the grid evolves over the course of the next 18 years, you have in place those electric appliances that will ultimately run on 100% renewables, right? So it's an early step that we can take, and even though that doesn't get us to renewable right now, it's an early stage that'll help get us to renewables later. there's a great resource called Rewire America that is, as part of the climate accords, as part of a nationwide attempt to get a lot of folks to move towards electrification, has really good calculators. They also have really good resources about the coming IRA programs. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. They talk about this idea of 10 important decisions over the next 20 years, right? So I know that we are in process of an electrification. We're even going beyond that. We're seeking to decarbonize our family's existence here. And an early part of that for us is electrification. So we recently replaced our downstairs package unit, heating and cooling unit with an energy efficient heat pump. That was a good step for us. But the idea is that you plan these changes out. We still have a gas water heater. We still have a gas range in our kitchen. Over the next, our plan is for about 10 years. So over the course of the next 10 years, we'll slowly and incrementally seek to change all these appliances to electric ones. But the idea is that if you have a plan, then, when we changed our HVAC this summer, we did it because our air conditioning went out in July, right? It was not a lot of fun, but we knew what we wanted to do. We kind of knew the specifications of what we wanted to put in. And so there wasn't the additional stressor of having to figure out what to do. So you make this plan, the steps on the plan. Resources like Rewiring America can kind of help you develop that plan so that when your water heater goes out, your reaction is, oh, it's time for the water heater plan, not, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? There's a very real instinct on the part of like your contractor to say, hey, great, your water heater went out. The easiest thing for me to do, the cheapest thing for you to do is to put in the same sort of water heater. But if you say, hey, water heater went out, I know that I want a heat pump water heater, and I know it needs to go here, and I know we need an electrician and a plumber. But if you're ready for it, you can do it, and then you can make that change to make that step. So I can't stress enough the importance or the value of electrification. There are a couple other steps you can think about too. Again, making your home more efficient kind of is a big one, is often the least expensive one. Thinking about your diet is a really important one as well, a really valuable one as well. We could literally talk for hours just on diet alone. This one says eat no beef. I don't know that I'm 100% there. I come from a long line of farmers. And I think, I think regenerative agriculture has a voice in this conversation as well. But again, I think that mindfulness, thinking about how you fly, how you travel, again, what those lifestyle choices represent. I'm struggling with this one a little bit personally as well. I will get on a plane tomorrow for work. I think what I'm going to do at my destination is really valuable as part of this work. We buy offsets. There's a local company called Appalachian Offsets that you can buy carbon offsets for. I think that's a good kind of bridge strategy in the moment to help get through. But thinking about how you can reduce essentially your carbon generation or your carbon consumption is another helpful thing to do. So heat pumps. We now say in my industry that the humble heat pump might save the world. The neat thing about a heat pump is that it is almost magical. Your furnace generates heat. A gas furnace generates heat. It burns gas and it generates heat. A heat pump moves heat. And by moving heat, it can actually move more heat than the energy it uses to move it. So this graphic kind of begins to approach that, but the idea is that there is latent heat energy in the air, and your heat pump essentially takes that energy into the heat pump, compresses it, and then moves it throughout the home to heat your home. And so in doing so, a furnace, 85, good furnaces now get to 95, even 97% efficiency. A heat pump gets to what they consider to be about 400% efficient in Western North Carolina. And that's because it's taking the energy that's in the air and putting it into your home. And so it can be a lot less expensive to heat your home with a heat pump. And then again, you're electrified, so you're preparing for kind of that clean energy future. We'll leave you with the slides, right? So you'll get an opportunity to think about how you could talk to a contractor, what kind of specifications you could put into. One of the things that I would say about the Blue Horizons project is that we want to be a resource to you, right? So like if you're thinking about a heat pump, give me a call. You know, we'd be happy to, we've got folks who can do an energy assessment of your home. We can review a scope from a contractor that you're thinking about working with. We can help you size what kind of heat pump maybe that you would have at your home to meet your home's heating and air conditioning needs, right? We are an educational and an enabling organization. So we'd be happy to help with anything in those lines. But, you know, having a heat pump can be a really good way to be resilient and comfortable in your home. The Inflation Reduction Act programs are coming. There is a generational, an unprecedented amount of investment in energy efficiency and in electrification coming through the Inflation Reduction Act programs. There are two programs, one aimed at efficiency, another aimed at electrification. North Carolina has indicated that they will apply for the IRA dollars. We hope to see programs really begin to roll out on the street probably in 2025. At the highest possible level, there are about $14,000 available to any given, there are up to $14,000 available per home. The programs are very much focused at low to moderate income customers, but the tax credits through the IRA are available to all customers. So that heat pump that we installed this summer is potentially qualifies for an up to $2,000 tax credit. You have to wait for it until tax time, but that can ease some of the burden. And then there are also going to be rebates that are available. And if you're interested in learning more about that, Blue Horizons can also serve as a resource there. I won't go into too much detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
I put in a solar about years ago, and it really has not reduced my bills at all, even though I ran it through the, through Duke. But do these rebates help for that sort of thing?
So the way that most rebate programs, and I think these are going to be designed, is for new additions, right? So actions that, yeah, so they're seeking to encourage to take future action. There is a new program from Duke Energy that they actually are just rolling out. It's called Power Pair. If you go to Duke Energy's website, and essentially they are incentivizing the addition of batteries to solar systems. And what they seek to do is make the batteries themselves available to the grid. So you can actually get an incentive for Duke Energy for adding batteries to an existing solar.
That actually got to Duke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know that one hurts. But it's, so, I mean, without going into too much wonky detail, Duke would immediately go out of business if they bought your power from you at retail. It's just not a sustainable model for them. I don't love it either. It doesn't make sense to me that if I'm generating the power, it comes out at wholesale and then I've got to buy it back at retail. It isn't lovely. It is the law of the land, essentially. Rewiring America, again, is a really good resource when thinking about the Inflation Reduction Act. That's not me. I'm not Jamie Wine. I'm Seth Little. But there are some good resources. Part of what we did as the Innovation Task Force was to look at ways that we could boost participation in existing Duke energy efficiency programs. They actually have a good suite of programs that are available to residential energy efficiency or residential customers in the energy efficiency space. So good information there. Home Energy House Call is a good way to get a free energy assessment of your home that would include recommendations based on everything that we talked about here. I've got another slide that isn't in this deck that helps make this case. But like, in addition to what you folks can do at your homes or even at your businesses, I would also ask for your help with the effort. Right, so I think easy ways to help would be to tell your friends about the talk that we had today, or to just kind of remember and maybe share with others that there is something called the Blue Horizons Project, or understand that the city and the county have this goal and that we're seeking to help others meet it. You could also volunteer. We are regular, there's regularly a Blue Horizons project table at, kind of organic fairs or Earth Day events, or, we have an entire calendar throughout the year where we attend, again, with a focus on education and enabling behavior, and we need a lot of help. We could also use funding help if you feel so called. And we could connect you to resources there. We are currently funded by the city and the county, but that is very much a year by year sort of enterprise. And this year we have half the budget that we had last year, right? And so we're a really scrappy organization, and we have really ambitious goals. And so again, we seek to focus on education and helping others to get connected to resources. So anything that I can do to help connect you to education or to further resources, I'm happy to do. And anything that you might feel called to do to help support our organization, we'd love to have your help. So I think I talked for way too long. But I mean, you guys have any questions, or is there anything I didn't talk about that you were hoping to hear?
So we live in.
Yeah. So I will say too that French Broad EMC has a really neat program. So, and Duke Energy can't even do this, but French Broad has a program where if you have a natural gas furnace or even an electric resistance furnace, they will pay, or they will actually provide wholesale level pricing on heat pumps for your home. And it's like almost half of what market rate would be. And so you use one of their contractors. They use Mitsubishi equipment, which is absolutely top of the line, highest efficiency. It's what we put into Connie's house. And you just work directly with them and you end up paying them directly. You can also finance that on your bill at very low interest rates as part of the program. So the offerings are a little bit different, but as long as you're in Buncombe County, Blue Horizons Project wants to help. And then French Broad has that is their best program, but they have a couple other offerings as well.
I have a question. I'm not. For usage to, and in the summer, we're always lower than energy efficient.
Yep.
And in the winter, we're higher than energy efficient. And then they call in the winter when we meet to be a blackout time period. I'm like, but I have a heat. And then it's in the heat, and she said it needed. Yes, with energy efficient. So I'm wondering if there's newer technology and maybe it was a fireplace that is not bad, and so how it has work maybe 10 years ago, we've done 50,000 for 5 days and just really paying what I don't know because I couldn't get out. It's just I would love to use.
I mean, one thing too, like I've got, I think hopefully a helpful answer, but I think like this highlights one of the challenges that I face regularly, which is the energy transition is not going to be this smooth and easy path, right? And like, I mean, we didn't even touch on EVs today, right? But like, I think EVs are a big part of the energy transition. I think there's been a lot in the news recently about people struggling with EV adoption, right? Like, none of this is going to be perfectly easy. And I think the answer I'm going to have for you is going to be really unsatisfying. But like, so previous heat pump technology, so heat pumps have gotten so much better even over the last 5 to 10 years. And like the heat pump we put in a Connie's home will run at 100% or effect at its 100%, which again, flex to nearly 400% efficiency down to about 5 degrees. And then below 5 degrees, it'll continue to work in the same way. It just won't be as efficient. But older heat pumps could only do what they call the refrigeration cycle, which is the way they pull latent heat from inside to outside down to about 35 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. And then anything below that, they would have what they call a strip heat backup, which is literally a giant hair dryer. you know, it's just an electrical coil with a fan blowing over it. And that works at any temperature, but it is not 400% effective, right? It's actually, it's exactly 1% or 100% efficient, but it is a huge drain on the power grid. And so what is happening to you probably in the wintertime, particularly, you know, this January, it got really cold, is you get low enough that backup heat source kicks in and it shoots your usage and your bill through the roof, right? And that's what takes you outside of that efficient home zone in the wintertime. So, I mean, um, yeah. I thought you had one too. Yeah.
Rest of strip points, LED, will the tax credit business too, or is it just, okay?
Yeah, there are tax credits for business, and then there are also, like, Duke Energy has a small business program. So I mean, I'd be happy to talk to you and get you connected to the right resources. And then Duke Energy's website is actually fairly good, and they can give you a sense for what's available. But particularly, like, there's still good savings available from lighting for Duke, and so they support that through their small business program. Well, y'all, I can't thank you enough for some time on a Sunday morning. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening today. Absolutely. So this is on your system, so I'll leave these slides with you folks. And then, you know, I think Nancy and company know how to get a hold of me. And, we would love to serve as a resource for anything you'd like to.